Welcome to my $100,000 stock experiment, year 2, week 35, ending December 13, 2019. This isn't an endorsement to purchase any stocks that I've bought, nor an endorsement to purchase stocks in general. I'm on a mission to become a great growth stock investor. Watch me on my journey, learn from my mistakes, and celebrate my successes. The S&P 500 index is continuing to climb. It did have difficult down days on Monday and Tuesday, but it finished off the week nicely. It did have Thursday and Friday, those 2 days with above average volume, those bars down at the bottom that are above that purple line. And it closed up 23 points since last week. The pink 8-day simple moving average has just crossed above that 13-day simple moving average, and it looks like it has a steep angle. So hopefully this index is starting to make a run. The Russell 2000 is basically flat from last week. It's up 4 points since last Friday's close, and it did have a down day on Friday, but had a super high price range up day on Thursdays. The simple moving averages on this index also look good. The 8-day, which is the pink line there, is above the 13-day, the green line, and it does look like it is pulling away from the green line, so that's a good sign. The VIX, or the volatility index, did close below 16 all week, which is excellent. I like to see it closer to 12, and it did close the week at 1263. My plan for last week was to take a vacation, so I was not connected to the internet, and I just basically took a trading break. I had floors set on all of my stocks, nothing triggered, and I didn't have any buying or any selling, plus I didn't create a watch list last week. I did want to show you a stock that I had sold the previous week. So the week ending 12/6, I sold Teradyne. The following week on 12/13, it was basically up 8% from the price that I sold it. So my floor was definitely too close for this. And this would basically be considered a bounce off the 50-day line. So it came down, it crossed under the 50-day line, and then the next day it closed above it and it continued to go up. So this was not a good sell for me. This is the current holding bar chart for my $10,000 B1 purchase. And you can easily see how these stocks are performing against one another, and then from week to week. Each bar represents 1 week. So AMD in the red over on the left-hand side, that one had a nice gain for the week. CDW went up a little, but basically not too much. CZZ in the brown had a really nice gain, as did eHealth in the yellow. You can see that Copart is basically flat. That's sort of in the aqua color. And Lululemon went down a little bit. That's in the orange. GPN in the purple has not risen back to its $10,000 purchase amount. So that stock I do have a loss in. And NeoEdge in the gray over on the right-hand side is basically flat as well. I also look at the individual stock charts and I rank them in the order of the weakest to the strongest. This isn't necessarily the dollar amount that I have gained in each stock, but it's the individual stock charts themselves that I'll review in a minute and how I think that they're performing. GPN is my weakest holding, followed by Lululemon and Copart. CZZ at number 8 is my strongest holding, and my second strongest holding is AMD. So I'm going to review the charts in the order of the weakest to the strongest. GPN, this is my weakest stock. I call it my loser stock. It might have turned around. That pink 8-day simple moving average is starting to trend up. And it does look like it had this bounce off the 28-day exponential moving average. So it came down to that point, but then it started to recover and go higher. I've held this stock for just about 4 weeks and it's down 1%. Lululemon, this stock did have earnings this week and it wasn't happy, but the stock only dropped down to its 28-day exponential moving average. So I'm going to see if it bounces and continues to hold that or go up. I do have a decent return on this. I've held it for just about 9 weeks and it's up 9.6%. Copart. The 8-day simple moving average, the pink line, is below the 13-day simple moving average, which is that green line, but it does look like it is about to cross above that. That would be a good sign. I have two purchases in this stock. One I've held for 8 weeks and it's up 6%, and one I've held for just about 3 weeks and it's down 2%. CDW. I raised my floor on this to the 50-day simple moving average, and I'm asking myself if I want to buy more. That 8-day, the pink line, has just crossed above that 13-day green simple moving average. I have two purchases in this stock. One I've held just over 12 weeks and it's up 12.6%, and one I've held just about 6 weeks and it's up 3.5%. NEO. This is my newest purchase. I've held it for 1.5 weeks and it's up 2%. I did move my floor up to that 20-day exponential moving average, and I'm wondering if I should be buying some more of this stock. I consider it strong because it does have the close above the 8-day simple moving average, and that 8-day is above the 13-day. eHealth. I have two purchases in this stock. One I've held for 5.5 weeks and it's up 25%, which is crazy. And the other purchase I've held for 1.5 weeks and it's up 3.6%. 13 of the last 15 days are up days, and I'm wondering if I should be buying more of this stock as well, do a B3 purchase. AMD. This stock had a really big day on Thursday. You can see up at the top that super tall green bar with the tick mark on the right, which means it closed at the top of the range. And then the next day, Friday, it went down and it closed at the bottom of the range, but it still made almost 4% up for the week. So a little volatile there, and both of those days were huge volume days, as you can see down at the bottom, but still a nice gain for the week. I have three purchases in AMD. One I've held for 6 weeks and it's up 15.7%. One I've held just under 6 weeks and it's up 11%. And one I've held just under 3 weeks and it's up 4.6%. My strongest stock is Cosan, symbol CZZ. I did raise my floor to the 28-day exponential moving average, and I wondered if this was what people call a climax top. So I talked to my girlfriend Robin, and she says it is possibly a climax top and that I needed to watch it closely. And after discussing it with her, I decided to move my floor up to my 8-day simple moving average. This stock has had great price action. You can see how much it's gone up, almost 10% for the week. And then the volume is mostly above average volume. I have three purchases in this stock. One I've held for just over 9 weeks and it's up 38.6%. One I've held just under 9 weeks and it's up 30%. And one I've held just under 8 weeks and it's up about 27%. When I talk about this climax top, I'm looking at how far above the 8-day, 13-day, and 50-day simple moving average the price is, and if it starts accelerating at a steeper pace than it had been at the past. So this is a Cosan chart from MarketSmith that shows how far above the price is from that 8-day down at number 1. So the 8-day simple moving average is 1931, and that's the price. The 2074 close price is 7.4% above that 8-day simple moving average. The stock price is 11.7% higher than that 13-day simple moving average and 22.4% higher than the 50-day simple moving average. Robin said, look at the stock chart for Square in 2017. And this is those charts from MarketSmith. You can go back in time and look at that price and how far it was above those simple moving averages. The chart on the left is showing November 24, 2017, when the stock closed at 48.86. The closing price was 42% above that 50-day simple moving average, and in 6 trading days, the stock dropped almost 25%. Over on the right-hand side, you can see on December 4th, the stock closed at 36.87, and it was only 3% above its 50-day simple moving average at that time. So Robin says, watch out make sure this doesn't happen to Cosan, and if it does, get out. The benchmark shows that my $100,000 has turned into $140,063 in the 1 year, 35 weeks that I've been doing this experiment, versus the S&P 500, which is up to $119,294. I like to look at where my gains came from, and basically they came from my existing holdings since I didn't have any buys or sells this week. I had a $4,283 gain from my existing holdings, plus I had a dividend, $98 in a dividend from CTX, which I don't even own anymore, and CDW. Sometimes dividends come in after you've sold the stock, but if you hold it at a certain point in time when the dividend is granted, then you're given that dividend even though you don't have the stock anymore. My biggest contributor to this bottom line, to my $140,000 this week, was CZZ. I had over a $2,600 gain in my 3 buys of CZZ. I like to look at the percentage gain for each of my stocks each week, and I sort them with the losers on the top, thinking if I take care of my losers, the winners will take care of themselves. So Lululemon was my big loser this week with a 2.5% loss, but it did have okay gains the previous weeks, so I'm not concerned about this so much this week, but I will be keeping an eye on Lulu to see if it can get back to making a gain. NIO also had a small loss of 0.8% this week. The one I'm most concerned about is the third one down, Copart. It did have a gain this week of 0.1%, but last week it had a 0.5% loss, and the week before a 0.3% loss. I like to see my stocks going up at least 0.5% a week, and if they have 3 loser weeks in a row, they typically trigger a floor. Down at the bottom, my biggest gainer was CZZ with a 10.8% gain, and eHealth with a 5.3% gain, which is great. This is the current dollar gain of each of my holdings just for my B1, my first $10,000 purchase. So GPN is my only loser stock. I have a $102 loss in that. And my largest gain is down at the bottom with CZZ with almost a $4,000 gain. This spreadsheet shows my lifetime and year-to-date gains versus the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 is over on the left-hand side. Down at the bottom, week ending 12/13, the weekly change for the S&P 500 was 0.73% versus my portfolio gain of 3.23%. The S&P is still beating me year-to-date with a 27.5% gain versus mine, which has just about a 24% gain. But I am narrowing that gap, and hopefully by the end of the year, I'll be even or beating the S&P 500. My lifetime, my portfolio experiment started April 13, 2018, and I'm up just about 40% versus the S&P 500 up 19% for the same time frame. The industry breakdown just shows if I'm diversified or not, and then how concentrated I am in each area. So my biggest concentration is in retail with Copart, where I have 2 buys, and Lulu. My second largest industry concentration is energy, where I have Cosan, and then the chip sector, which I have AMD. I have 3 buys in that, as I have 3 buys in Cosan, and then followed by the insurance with eHealth, the business services with CDW, medical with NIO, and finance with my GPN. My cash balance at the end of week 35, year 2, is $7,221. I'll sell anything that triggers a floor, and I'm looking at buys. I'd like to do a buy 3 for eHealth or a buy 2 for NIO. I can do one of those, but not both of them. And then I have a watch list, so if something sells, then I can look at my watch list to do a buy. Here's my watch list for this week. The red flags indicate stocks that were on my watch list from my previous watch list. So Adobe, Dorian LPG, Peloton, and Tactile Systems I've wanted to buy previously, and then I've added some new stocks there. Like I said, I can't make a buy unless I sell something. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for my next episode, or better yet, subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to hit the bell if you want an alert when I post a new episode.